Trading card games are in my opinion quite the interesting topic for a video, as you could talk about literally anything Pokemon related and get a good amount of attention, while doing the exact same for a series such as Disney Lorcana will likely at most only cause some people to remember it even exists, but that is just how things go in the world of trading cards, as the Pokemon side of this simple and mostly peaceful hobby has gotten way too big for its own good, and because of that things are just a complete mess, as people go crazy over almost any new product that releases nowadays, making it hard for the more casual collectors and children to even get a hold of anything. Which is of course very upsetting, as one of the most enjoyable aspects of the card collecting hobby is of course being able to open up some stuff from time to time, and as that is seemingly becoming harder and harder to do so, I have somewhat lost interest into the Pokemon TCG in favor of a card series that I personally find to be a lot more exciting, as it appeals to some of my more modern interests. And well, this card series is simply known as Goddess Story. So, Goddess Story is a trading card series that puts its focus on a wide variety of different series, ranging from anime, manga and even video games. The cards are produced by a Chinese company that is in English often referred to as the Little Frog Company, who have been making and distributing these cards ever since 2020, and to this day they still seem to be pushing out some new sets from time to time. Each set of Goddess Story cards can be easily spotted in the wild through their signature Little Frog mascot character that is placed on the top left of every single booster box and pack, on top of also having some signature yellow Chinese text that roughly translates to the likes of Goddess Story. If you can't seem to locate any of those things on your unopened products, you're most likely dealing with a different series of cards that is just using the name of Goddess Story to profit of the relatively small amount of success it has had on the Chinese and Japanese side of the TCG market. You see, while the concept of anime girl trading cards wasn't all too new of an idea when Goddess Story first launched, it did spark some genuine interest from some people, as this series of cards has no licensing whatsoever and mostly makes use of stolen promotional and fan-made artwork to create the cards. Therefore, this series is in a bit of a weird spot, as not only is there the chance that it can just vanish one day due to copyright infringement, but there's also no incentive to even collect these cards if all you care about is making a profit, as the cards have almost no monetary value whatsoever, on top of also not being recognized by grading companies as a card series that is even worth their time. But personally, I don't really care a whole lot if the cards I get don't have any licensing to them or aren't that valuable, as at the end of the day I just like to open up stuff in the hopes of getting a card of a character that I like or might even end up liking because of said card. So actually getting a hold of some Goddess Story products is relatively easy, as with there not being all too much of a demand for these cards, all you really have to do is just find a set you're interested in on Amazon, eBay or even AliExpress and just go to town opening up packs. Each booster box of Goddess Story comes with a total of 30 packs that hold 5 cards each, and personally I recommend opening up this series packs from their backside, as just like the Scarlet and Violet era Pokemon cards, the guaranteed SR or higher rarity card is then placed at the end of the pack. Seeing as with how these cards are designed and placed in the packs, they work a whole lot better if opened from the back. You see, Goddess Story cards have a bit of a unique quirk to them, as while most trading cards have some art of a character or creature on the front and then a logo of their series on the back, Goddess Story instead has character art on the front of the card and then a decent amount of information on the backside. So can you learn very vital information, such as a character's height, weight, blood type and even chest size, on top of also giving you a small introduction of who the character is and from what franchise they are from, which I think is very useful and a fun way to use the back of the cards. And therefore it does kinda baffle me that not every card in this series follows this formula, as in this blue Goddess Story set with set number NS11 there are a good handful of cards with the rarity of CR and SCR that have a generic backside with the logo of this series and no character information whatsoever, which is a bit odd, as in the following set with set number NS12 the new cards with the CR and SCR rarities got printed with the regular information filled backsides that are the norm for the cards of this series. So why there randomly was a change to the backside of those rarities, well, that is something we will likely never know. But then again, it also doesn't really matter all too much, as the point of this card series is to just collect cards that feature cute anime girls, and the small tidbits of information on the back of the cards are honestly just a fun little bonus if you know how to read Chinese or don't mind having to make use of Google Translate. Personally, I just think the Chinese text looks cool and adds to the overall look of the cards. But something that I'm honestly not all too big a fan of is how God of Story handles duplicates, as for some odd reason every time a new set of this series gets released, a small handful of cards from the previous set make their way over to the much more recent one, basically meaning that if you want to open up a bunch of sets of this series, it is in your best interest to first do a bunch of research into the set you want to open, as otherwise you are very likely to end up with an overabundance of duplicate bulk, which you can't really do a whole lot with, as the trading scene for this series is pretty much non-existent, on top of the fact that these kind of cards are just made with the intention of being a fun and easy to collect type of merchandise, but still, it is just a little bit unfortunate how things go in regards of actually collecting the God of Story products, especially as the genuine collectors of this series haven't been all too helpful in this matter, as the fan-made Waifupedia website and Waicall app, which are by far some of the most reliable sources for information on this series, feature almost everything you might need to know about any given set, except for what cards just so happen to have gotten the privilege of being available in more than just a singular expansion, which is definitely a little bit odd, as I would assume that most people will be relatively eager to know about all the different cards they could obtain from opening up a set. And I know that I personally would find it very useful, as to me collecting God of Story cards isn't so much about just collecting cards with anime girls on them, but instead more so about finding and opening up the sets that appeal to your taste, as unlike other card series where every set has its value to how good certain cards are in the game of this series, these sets of God of Story more so just boil down to personal preference, as opening up a set that has a good handful of cards of characters you like will of course be a lot more fulfilling than opening up a set that features barely any cards that appeal to your personal preference. Or well, that is at least how I see things, as the only sets I've opened up so far of God of Story are ones that I did a bunch of research on to see if they had a good amount of cards based on franchises that I myself am rather fond of, such as Genshin Impact and Toho Project among a few other ones. So, God of Story is in all honesty just a fun and relatively harmless trading card series that kinda just exists for the sake of existing, which there is of course nothing wrong with, as at the end of the day, these cards are simply just another type of merchandise that you can easily collect and display, or even bring with you if you feel the need to spread your love for certain characters outside of the comfort of your home. But no matter how you go about having an interest in this series, do remember to keep it fun for everyone, as at the end of the day, collecting cards is meant to be a fun and relaxing hobby that doesn't really benefit a whole lot from having people ruining it for others. And with that being said, it's about time we end off this video, as just like the weekend, all good things must come to an end at some point, and so does this video. So now I will simply just say goodbye.